Hi everyone, my name is Cassie and welcome to my channel Bookish Furies. I've been tagged in the My Pleasure book tag by the sweet Jasmine over at Jasmine's Reads. If you haven't been to her channel yet, make sure to visit her. She always has a lot of diverse and interesting reads that she talks about, and I always find a lot of books to be very interesting and very unique, so definitely check her out if you haven't yet. I will put her link down below as well as the link to the original video. So let's get right to it. Question number one, a book that made you think hard. And this, I would have to say, is the book called Evicted by Matthew Desmond. This is a nonfiction book. Matthew Desmond is a Harvard sociologist and he follows 8 families in Milwaukee to see how they deal with their struggles of keeping a roof over their heads. This book was incredibly heartbreaking, and as someone who wasn't very familiar with the topic of living situations and hardships that people face, it was a very, very eye-opening read, and I would definitely recommend to anyone who's interested in the topic, or if you're just looking for a very informative and interesting non-fiction book to read, because this was an excellent read. You get to meet a lot of different families and see their struggles, and you really get to see how broken the housing system is. And I know a lot of people have say that people on like assistance and things like that, like social assistants, have it very easy and they get their housing for free and things like that. And when you read this book, you really see how complicated it really is. There's no simple way for people to find housing, and there's a lot of limitations to where they can live and how they can live. And I just completely love this book and I very much recommend it. Number 2 is Love, a book that either broke or mended your heart, and I have to go with Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne, and this was a book that definitely broke my heart. It's a pretty long read, but I flew through it and it was just a beautiful story, and it really made me feel things that I haven't felt in a while reading a novel. Just to sum it up, it follows the story of the main character who is a gay man in Ireland, and the story starts right before he's born and it ends kind of at the end of his life, and you really get to see his struggle as a gay man with all of the laws, you know, make gay relationships illegal, and his struggles and his relationships with people, and just his whole journey is completely heartbreaking, but it's just also such a beautiful read and I loved it. And if I were to recommend a book to read for someone, I would definitely recommend this one. It's just a gorgeous read, so make sure to check it out if you haven't read it yet. Number 3 is Eat, a book that nourishes you. I haven't ate any books before, but I'm guessing a book that probably kind of nourishes you as in, like, I guess intellectually. So I'm gonna have to go with We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And this is a very short read. It's just like an essay, I guess you would say. And this is a fabulous read if you are a feminist, and also if you know someone who's maybe on the fence about it. But I feel like this book has a very reasonable and simple reasoning as to why we should all be feminists. So I find this book to be a very good read for anyone who's on the fence, or someone who's just not very well informed, or anyone who's just trying to reinforce the fact that they are a feminist. She just covers a lot of very basics as to why feminism is a good thing and why it's not infringing upon men and the way that men are, and, you know, on men's rights. We're not a bunch of man haters. That's a very big misconception. So I feel like this book does a great job of putting things into perspective, and I think that if you're looking to kind of reinforce your own beliefs, this is a great book to read. Number 4 is Laugh, a book that brought a little comic relief. This wasn't a book that I expected to make me laugh as much as it did, and I don't know if I was wrong to find this book funny, but I thought The Catcher in the Rye was a pretty funny read. Honestly, the main character made me laugh multiple times, and I think it's probably because in the way he's very troubled, and he isn't happy with any of the people that he deals with. So his friends, his family, he always complains about everyone. But I found that to be kind of funny, and some of the comments that he made were pretty funny in my opinion. I don't think that this book is meant to be like a funny book, but I thought that there was definitely a bunch of humorous things in there, and I really enjoyed it. Basically, this is about a young guy who gets expelled from school, and he ends up trekking back to New York City where his family lives, and he just kind of goes on a little adventure around town, just doing random things and trying to act like a grown-up while also, you know, not facing the truth of having to let his parents know what he's up to and what has happened, and while also planning to just like move away somewhere and just do a random thing. I thought it was a very interesting read, and I thought it was pretty humorous at times too. So overall, it's a great read, and I wish I'd read it earlier because I kept seeing this book over and over again, and I never picked it up till I think a year or two ago. Number 5 is Sex, a book that explores or contains sexuality that doesn't make you cringe. I feel like the books that don't make me cringe are the ones where the main focus of the book is romance and like the relationship rather than regular kind of rendezvous. So I'm gonna have to go with probably one of Nicholas Sparks' books. I actually had a phase in my life where I read Nicholas Sparks books a lot and similar books to that, so kind of like romancy, which I mean you wouldn't believe now looking at the kind of books that I mostly tend to read. So yeah, a good Nicholas Sparks books I would recommend is The Wedding. It's about a couple who, you know, they've lived together for a while, and they have children or one child, and their marriage is kind of struggling, and they're really trying to work to rekindle that sort of romance that they had, which I thought was a very good book. And there's definitely a lot of sexual themes and sexuality in there, so I thought it was a pretty good read. Number 6 is Rest, a book that gave you peace, reflection, and just calmed you down. And this is a book I read a while ago that I randomly picked up, having heard nothing about it, so I just gave it a shot. And this book is The School of Essential Ingredients. Basically, this book is just a light, fluffy read about a cooking class, and a bunch of people go in there and they all get together and cook. And also each of the characters, each of the people at that class has their own little backstory with their own personal problems, things that they're facing, something they're trying to work with, and through the cooking class they kind of resolve their life's problems and they see some more clarity, which I thought was a really feel-good book. And actually, I don't think I've ever read a book that was as feel-good as that book. I don't know what it was for me, but I don't know, that book was just very comforting, calming, and I felt great after it. And I feel like I don't read a lot of feel-good books, so that's definitely one book that stood out for me. Number 7 is Experience, a book that introduced you to a new subject or changed your perspective. And I'm gonna have to go with The Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and From Here to Eternity. These two books I read recently, kind of back to back, and they're all about the subject of death, dying, and what happens to your body after you pass away. And the author really digs deep to explore what other cultures do, what we do here in North America, and how we need to change our perspective and to really figure out what we want done and to be just more informed about the subject. And I found that it was just really eye-opening, and I learned a lot about subject I knew virtually nothing about. So that definitely was a very interesting dive into a topic that was completely new to me, and I feel like I'm more informed and I know more about it, and I can sort of start forming my own opinions about what I like and what I don't like about different things that could be done. So I think that this book is like that's the first time the topic kind of really intrigued me, and I just wanted to read more similar books about the topic, so I think those two are great informative reads. So now I'm going to tag 2 people to do this tag as well. Please forgive me if you've done this tag before. I did not do much research to see if it has been done or not. First is Shelby at Read and Find Out, and second is Lydia at Lydia Holmes. So if this tag caught your eye and you think it's a fun time, please give it a go. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.